Authenticity matters when examining the law. What follows is a comprehensive look at real events, presenting unfiltered and unedited perspectives. Experience raw, unaltered footage directly from the front lines of justice, where every second carries profound consequences.
Hands where we can see them. Don't move.
I can't. I'm disabled. I need my cane to stand.
Stop adjusting.
I'm not resisting. Am I being detained?
Just stay right there. You're surrounding me.
I served 8 years. I can't stand like this.
Sir, we're verifying information. Just hold steady.
The bus depot was loud in a tired way. Diesel engines idled. Departure boards flickered. A late afternoon crowd moved in uneven lines, dragging bags, checking tickets, trying to get home before dark. James Carter stood near a concrete pillar, weight shifted carefully onto his right leg. His left knee did not bend the way it used to. A metal brace ran beneath his jeans. One hand rested on a worn cane. The other held a folded bus ticket creased from being checked twice already. He had served 8 years. Army, 2 deployments, an injury that ended everything else came home with him. Now he took buses. It was easier than driving, cheaper, predictable. Sir, James turned slowly. 3 men stood close enough that the air between them felt crowded. Plain jackets, no smiles. Federal agents, one of them said, flashing a badge quickly, too quickly. What's this about? James asked. We need to ask you a few questions, another agent said. He stepped closer, blocking the path toward the boarding gate. Where are you headed? Home, James replied. He lifted the ticket slightly. I'm waiting for my bus. The agents did not look at the ticket. They repositioned instead, spreading out one to his left, one to his right, one directly in front. James adjusted his stance instinctively, pain flashing through his knee as he shifted. Hands where we can see them, the agent in front said. James tightened his grip on the cane but lifted his free hand. I'm disabled. I need this to stand. No one acknowledged that. You got ID? Another agent asked. James reached slowly into his jacket and produced his veteran ID card. Disabled veteran. It was clearly marked. He held it out. The agent took it, glanced, then handed it to his partner without comment. Why are you surrounding me? James asked. Am I being detained? The question changed the air. Just stay where you are, the first agent said. Don't move. Behind them, commuters slowed. A woman with a rolling suitcase stopped. A man leaned against a ticket kiosk, phone already out. The noise of the depot seemed to dull around the small circle forming. James shifted again as his knee began to shake. His cane slipped slightly on the tile. One agent stepped closer, forcing him back against the pillar. The concrete pressed cold against his shoulder blades. Sir, you need to calm down, the agent said. I am calm, James replied, breath controlled but shallow. I can't move fast. I told you that. The agents closed the space anyway. In a bus depot filled with people going somewhere, a disabled veteran was boxed in, questioned without explanation, treated like a threat while holding a cane instead of a weapon, and the cameras had already started to rise. The story pulls back from the pillar and moves backward long before the agents closed the space. James Carter enlisted straight out of high school. Infantry. 8 years of structure, orders, and routines that made sense. His injury came during a deployment that never made the news. A blast that did not kill him but rewrote his body. The knee surgery, the rehab, the paperwork that followed him home. Civilian life narrowed quickly. Long walks became calculations. Driving became pain. Buses became reliable. Timetables did not judge limps. Seats did not ask questions. He learned where to stand so he could lean without falling. He learned to move early so crowds would not rush him. The cane was not a symbol to him. It was a tool. Without it, his balance slipped. His leg shook. His breathing changed. He carried his veteran ID the way others carried keys, not for pride, for explanation. The federal agents who approached him came from a different rhythm. Their unit rotated through transportation hubs, bus depots, train stations, places where movement looked like opportunity. Briefings emphasized vigilance. Look for nervous behavior, unusual movements, objects carried close to the body, hesitation in crowds. They were trained to control space first. Questions later. Spread out. Block exits. Reduce variables. The approach worked well when targets ran. It failed when targets could not. That afternoon, a bulletin had gone out. General description. No name, no warrant. A male figure. Transit hub. Possible concern. The kind of notice that invited interpretation. When the agents saw James standing alone with a cane and a bag, they decided before speaking. They did not ask about the brace under his jeans. They did not ask why his weight favored one side. They saw stillness as concealment and imbalance as tension. James did not know any of this as he leaned against the pillar. He only knew the familiar signals. People standing too close, exit paths closing, voices lowering while bodies moved in. He asked the right question, am I being detained? In that moment, the agents faced a choice. Verify and step back, or hold position and assert control. They chose control. Two paths crossed in the open space of a bus depot, one shaped by service and injury, the other by procedure practiced without adjustment. When they met, accommodation disappeared, and the crowd sensing it began to watch. The escalation unfolded in inches, not seconds. James Carter shifted his cane to steady himself, the rubber tip squeaking faintly against the tile. An agent noticed the movement and stepped closer immediately. Don't move, he said, voice firm, hand hovering near his belt. I'm not moving, James replied. I'm adjusting so I don't fall. Another agent angled in tighter, closing the last gap between James and the pillar. The concrete pressed harder into his back now. His knee began to tremble, the familiar warning he had learned to respect. He slowed his breathing the way physical therapists had taught him, but the pain crept up anyway. What's in the bag, one agent asked. Clothes, James said. Medication. He nodded toward the brace under his jeans. I'm disabled. I showed you my ID. The agent did not respond. He reached toward the bag, then stopped short, eyes flicking to the phones that had begun to rise around them. A woman stood 10 feet away, recording openly now. A man near the ticket counter said quietly, He's got a cane. Sir, an agent said louder, You need to comply with our instructions. James swallowed. I have been. I'm standing. I'm answering you. Am I being detained? The question hung in the air unanswered. The departure board chimed. A bus arrived. Passengers streamed past the scene, some slowing, some stopping completely. The crowd thickened, curiosity giving way to discomfort. No one liked what they were seeing, but no one was sure how to stop it. James's cane slipped again as his knee buckled slightly. He caught himself against the pillar, breath hitching. One agent reacted by stepping in fast, pressing a hand to James's shoulder to keep him upright. The touch was not violent, but it was unnecessary. The crowd reacted anyway. Someone said, Hey! Another voice followed. He's hurt. Sir, you need to calm down, the agent repeated. I am calm, James said, voice tight now. I can't stand like this for long. An agent keyed his radio, speaking low and fast, framing the scene as it unfolded. Subject appears nervous. Not cooperating fully, requesting supervisor. Westing. James closed his eyes briefly. He felt the familiar edge of panic. Not fear of them, but fear of falling in front of strangers, fear of being unable to get back up quickly. He focused on the sound of the engines, on the steady rhythm of arrivals and departures. Around them, phones stayed raised. A woman shook her head slowly. A man muttered, This isn't right. The agents felt it, the weight of witnesses, and responded the only way they knew how. They tightened the circle. In the middle of a public bus depot surrounded by people trying to go somewhere, a disabled veteran was being treated like a flight risk he physically could not be, and every second of that choice was being recorded. The injustice crystallized when control replaced care. An agent stepped closer and placed his forearm across James Carter's chest, pinning him gently but firmly against the pillar. It was not a strike. It did not need to be. The pressure was enough to keep him upright and trapped at the same time. James's cane slipped from his hand and clattered against the tile, the sound sharp in the open space. I need that to stand, James said, breath tightening. An agent nudged the cane aside with his boot eyes still locked on James. Don't reach for anything. James's knee gave a small shake as the brace strained. He shifted instinctively, pain flashing bright and sudden. The agent misread it immediately. Stop resisting, he said, voice louder now. I'm not resisting, James replied. I'm disabled. The words did not slow them. Another agent moved behind him, cutting off any chance of leaning away from the wall. The space closed completely. James's shoulder blades pressed hard against the concrete. His breathing shortened. Around them, the crowd reacted. A woman shouted that he had a cane. A man said he's hurt. Phones lifted higher, closer. Sir, you are not free to leave, an agent said. There it was. James closed his eyes for a moment, steadying himself. Am I under arrest? No answer came. Instead, an agent reached for James's wrists, pulling his arms back awkwardly. The movement sent a jolt through his injured knee as his balance shifted. He gasped not from fear, but from pain. The sound cut through the depot noise in a way that made people flinch. "Hey," someone yelled. Metal clicked. Not cuffs yet. A grip tightening. A decision forming without being spoken. James's veteran ID slid from his pocket and fell near the cane. A woman bent to pick it up, holding it toward the agents. "He's a vet," she said. "He's disabled." No one took the card. The agents spoke over one another, now radios crackling, instructions overlapping. The supervisor was on the way. "Hold him here. Don't let him move." James's leg finally buckled. The agents held him upright, not to help, but to maintain control. His weight sagged between them, a body that could not comply any further even if it wanted to. In the middle of a bus depot filled with exits and destinations, a disabled veteran was physically cornered, restrained without charge, denied accommodation he clearly needed. The injustice was complete, public, physical, unavoidable. And as the crowd pressed in, voices rising, cameras steady, the agents realized too late that what they were enforcing no longer looked like security. It looked like cruelty. The revelation came not from force, but from verification that should have happened first. A supervisor pushed through the edge of the crowd, radio still in his hand, eyes already locked on James. Carter slumped between two agents. He took in the fallen cane, the veteran ID on the floor, the brace visible beneath the jeans. His expression tightened. "What's going on here?" the supervisor asked. One agent answered quickly. "Possible suspicious individual. Wouldn't comply." The supervisor held up a hand and looked directly at James. "Sir, can you tell me your name?" James lifted his head with effort. "James Carter. Disabled veteran. I'm waiting for my bus." The supervisor bent, picked up the veteran ID and read it carefully. He looked at the card again, then at James's leg, then at the agents. "Why was he restrained?" the supervisor asked. No one answered immediately. The supervisor spoke again, slower now. "Do you have probable cause to detain him?" An agent shifted his weight. "We were verifying." The supervisor's voice hardened. "Verification does not require physical restraint, and it does not override disability accommodation." He turned back to James. "Sir, I'm going to have them step back. You're not under arrest." The agents loosened their grip reluctantly. James sagged, nearly collapsing, until the supervisor steadied him and retrieved the cane, placing it back in his hand. James leaned on it heavily, breathing shallow but controlled. The crowd exhaled as one. Phones stayed up. Someone murmured, "Thank God." The supervisor faced the agents again. "There is no warrant, no charge, no justification for holding him against a wall. This stops now." One agent tried to speak. The supervisor cut him off. "We'll talk later." He turned back to James. "I'm sorry this happened. You're free to go." James nodded once. He did not say thank you. He did not need to. He adjusted his stance, found his balance, and straightened as much as his body allowed. Around them, people began to speak more openly now. That was wrong. He needed his cane. He's a vet. The supervisor radioed for medical assistance anyway, ignoring protests, making sure the moment was documented correctly this time. He asked James if he wanted to sit. James agreed, lowering himself carefully onto a bench nearby. As the agents stepped back, their confidence drained away, replaced by awareness. Cameras, witnesses, a supervisor who had seen enough. What had been framed as suspicion collapsed under the weight of a single ID card and a basic question that should have been asked minutes earlier. And once that question was answered, there was no version of the story where this looked acceptable, only a version where it looked like evidence. The crusade for justice began before James Carter boarded his bus. By the time he sat down, cane braced between his knees, the videos were already spreading. Clear angles, clear audio, the circle of agents, the cane on the floor, the moment his leg buckled while voices accused him of resisting. What might have been written off as procedure collapsed when watched in real time. Veterans groups amplified it first. They recognized the posture, the brace, the look of a man calculating pain instead of threat. Civil rights organizations followed, pulling the footage, requesting incident reports, demanding names. The bus depot released surveillance video within days, filling in every gap the agents' statements tried to blur. James filed suit with quiet precision. Unlawful detention. Excessive force against a disabled individual. Failure to accommodate under federal disability law. Violation of Fourth Amendment protections. Emotional distress. The complaint read like a timeline, not an accusation. Each claim anchored to a frame of video, a radio transmission, a witness statement. Discovery exposed what the crowd had sensed immediately. No warrant, no active alert tied to James, no justification for blocking exits or physical restraint. Training materials that required accommodation for visible disabilities. None of it followed. At trial, the jury watched the footage without commentary. They saw the cane slide away. They heard James explain his disability. They watched agents tighten their circle instead of stepping back. Experts testified that every escalation violated protocol. Veterans testified about mobility injuries and balance loss. The defense had no alternate narrative that survived the screen. The verdict came back unanimous, $7.6 million. The number reflected more than pain. It reflected dignity, denied service, disregarded, and a public reminder that authority does not erase obligation. The award included mandatory retraining, revised protocols at transit hubs, and disciplinary action for the agents involved. Careers stalled. Reassignments followed. Files grew thicker. James declined interviews. He released one statement through counsel. He said he did not want anyone else with a cane to be treated like a threat. He said service did not end at discharge, and neither did respect. He continued to take the bus. The difference was not the route. It was the record. The knowledge that what happened to him had been named, measured, and answered with consequence. Justice did not arrive as apology. It arrived as accountability. And for an agency accustomed to controlling space first, the cost finally forced a pause. The final lesson of this story does not belong to the bus depot. It belongs to the line between authority and accommodation, and what happens when that line is ignored. Federal agents do not gain extra power because a space is crowded or noisy. A public transportation hub does not suspend constitutional protections. Disability does not reduce rights. It increases obligations. When a person presents visible mobility limitations, the law requires de-escalation and accommodation, not containment. What failed here was not training on paper. It was judgment in practice. The agents treated imbalance as threat and stillness as concealment. They closed space instead of opening questions. They controlled movement instead of verifying facts. Once they removed the cane, the encounter stopped being investigatory and became punitive. James Carter survived the moment because he relied on discipline learned long before that depot. Control your breathing. Do not escalate. Say what is true once and repeat it calmly. He did not resist because his body could not. He did not comply further because there was nothing left to give. The record formed around that restraint. For viewers, the lessons are practical. If you live with a disability and are confronted in public, state it clearly. Ask for accommodation. Do not rush movements. If you are detained without cause, focus on safety and documentation rather than argument. The moment may not correct itself. The record can. If you are a witness, your presence matters. Recording from a safe distance is lawful in most jurisdictions. Do not interfere physically. Do not shout instructions. A steady camera and clear audio often carry more weight than confrontation. If you hold authority, the obligation is absolute. Control is not a substitute for care. When a cane is present, when a brace is visible, when someone says they cannot stand, accommodation is not optional. Ignoring it turns procedure into cruelty, and cruelty leaves evidence. The jury verdict did not give James Carter back the pain-free mobility he lost in service. It did not erase the moment his leg buckled while strangers accused him of resisting. It did something else. It placed a cost on ignoring disability in the name of control. $7.6 million moved because agents chose containment over confirmation and force over adjustment. Justice here was not loud. It was exact. Policies changed. Training changed. Careers shifted. A boundary was enforced with consequence. The question that remains is the one that always matters. How many people with disabilities are cornered in public spaces without cameras, without witnesses, without the strength to endure it standing up? That answer is why this story matters.
Every story has two sides, but the truth remains singular. We are here to hold power to account, letting verified records do the talking. The documents simply do not lie. Thanks for watching and supporting independent media.